What shenanigans can we come up with when we combine red and green into One Piece trading card game? Let's talk about it. What's up, captains? Welcome back to The Other Decks. My name's Casual Dobo, and today we're looking at more One Piece trading card game decks, specifically getting out of the starter deck meta and looking towards some cards that are coming out in set 1. And me being the janky deck building person that I am, I did want to build a deck based on the red-green Luffy leader card that's coming out in set 1. And with access to these two colors, there is something that I wanted to test out, which I'm dubbing the Otama Juggle, but really it's using the super rare from set 1, the law card that is a blocker, and then on play you can return one of your characters from the field to your hand and then play something with a cost of 3 or less. And that is open to any character, so no type of requirements here. And so I sort of wanted to play around with that and test out what kind of targets might be good to sort of juggle with this effect. And then at the time that I built this, Otama had just recently been introduced, and so her ability is on play, give one of your opponent's characters minus 2k power. And so I wanted to see what a juggle for that might look like. So two things before we move on it through the deck profile. I'll say one, this probably isn't going to be the most meta type of deck. There is a way to make the red-green Luffy leader super potent, super meta, and I am working on that, so if you want to check that out, let me know in the comments down below. But really this is kind of a fun experiment to see what might work and what might not. Because yeah, at this point in the One Piece trading card game's life, we're still super early, so I think now is a good time to try and mess around and see what works, what doesn't. Yeah, it's so early that not even the starter decks have released yet, and that means we're at least like 2 weeks away from the actual set 1 coming out, so plenty of time to figure it out. But I do think this is a pretty fun deck, and I do have some gameplay for that coming out, so if you're looking forward to seeing that, please consider giving this a like and subscribing to the channel. But I'm super excited to show this to you, so let's go ahead and jump right into the deck profile. Alright, and like with all of the decks that we've done for the One Piece trading card game so far, I'm going to start off with a Dawn curve here, just to give us a sense of what the deck kind of looks like from a cost perspective. So you'll see that we're kind of playing around pretty heavily in the 2 cost range, mostly 1, 2s, and 3s, really playing around with a bunch of cards that can be played using Law's ability. So yeah, this is pretty low to the ground, and in terms of counters, we do have 32 counters available, with only 4 of them coming in counter event cards, meaning that we have 28 character based counters. Also, when building this deck, I did want to build it slightly lower to the ground than most decks, just because when it comes to the Luffy leader, the red-green one, you only have 4 life as opposed to 5, so things can get out of hand pretty quickly. Alright, so now that we got the Dawn curve out of the way, let's go ahead and jump into the ratios. Alright, so starting us off, we go to our leader. So this is Monkey D. Luffy, red-green, 5k power, 4 life, very important, and then has the effect activate main once per turn, 4. So that means you need to rest 4 Dawn in your cost area in order to activate this. But you get to set one of your cost 5 or lower supernovas or Straw Hat Crew to active, and then that character also gets plus 1000 power for the turn. So you can kind of see a sample of green effects and red effects in this Luffy. Green in that you get to reactivate one of your characters, and then plus 1000 for a turn is very much a red ability. But the main idea, besides the Otama Juggle shenanigans, is that you're playing cards that have either Supernova or Straw Hat Crew in them, things that can give you a bit of advantage, maybe some aggro, maybe some rush, and then attack with them, and then restand them and attack again. But yeah, the Luffy leader card here is pretty good. 4 costs to activate that ability is a little much, but by the time you get into sort of the mid game, you're in a good position, hopefully. Moving on to our 1 cost, we do have 3 copies of Otama, so this is a 1 to play, 0 power, which also, as a quick note, it differs from Digimon in that something with 0 power does not get KO'd automatically. But that's alright, just because if it meant preventing some of the yellow stuff that we get in Digimon, I'm fine with it. But yeah, like I said earlier, this says on play, give one of your opponent's characters minus 2k power during this turn. And so what I'm really utilizing it for is sort of a counter attack, right? So say our opponent swings in with something big, and we only have like low-ish to medium powered characters on the field, we could use Otama's on-play ability to weaken that character. That way some of our mid-tier attackers can go in and swing over that character. Otama is also good with some of our red event cards, such as Jet Pistol, because it actually targets a specific power level when deleting. I believe Jet Pistol targets anything 6,000 power or less. So, say your opponent has something with 8k power, play an Otama for 1, that goes down to 6k, and then for 4, you can play Jet Pistol to KO it. Granted, that whole entire combo costs 5 Dawn in total, but it's something that you can possibly do. Moving on to our next one cost, we do have 3 copies of Nami. This is from the starter deck. One costs 1,000 power, but activate main once per turn. Give your leader or one of your characters a rested Dawn. So this is really cool because we get to use our Dawn to play some cards and then can also attach them to some of our other cards that require Dawn to use their abilities. But the reason I don't have 4 of this is because I didn't want to see, there are other cards I want to see, to be frank. But I still think it's useful to have in this deck just because it can give us some advantage when it comes to attacking or utilizing abilities. And it can also be juggled using Law's ability. I think now would also be a good time to mention that I did build this deck before the sort of Anime Expo weekend, and so we didn't really see what sort of Straw Hat crew members were going to be introduced in set 1, and so I don't have any of them in here, but those Straw Hats are pretty good. Most likely when I do the sort of more competitive version of this deck, I will include some of those Straw Hats. Hopefully they'll be on OnePieceCard.dev. But for now, this Nami, pretty good. Next up, moving on to our 2 costed characters, do have 4 copies of Bartolomeo. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that in some sort of way. But no, Bartolomeo is cool because 2 to play, 2k power, but it is a blocker, which is nice. And then Dawn times 2 on your opponent's turn, this character gains plus 3,000 power. So I think this is cool because this is where Nami would come into play, where she can give Bartolomeo 1 rested Dawn. You can attach an active Dawn to it, and then it becomes a 5k blocker on your opponent's turn. It's also cool because we have an event card in Straw Sword that allows us to play, if it's triggered, a cost 2 or lower supernova from our hand. And because it is a supernova, super rookie, we could play a blocker, which is pretty sweet. Counter potential at plus 1,000. And overall, I think this is just a very solid blocker in this particular deck, because there are some ways to cheat it out. Moving on, we do have 3 copies of the set 1 Monkey D. Luffy character. So this is 2 cost, 3k power, counter potential at plus 1, then Dawn times 2. This character cannot be KO'd by something with the strike attribute. And then activate main once per turn, give this character up to 2 of your rested Dawn. So yeah, with its ability, when it's able to attack, it can go up to 5k pretty easily, and then is also immune to strike characters, which is pretty awesome as there are a lot of strike characters out in the game. On to the next character, and I have 4 copies of Brook. So this is 2 to play, 3k power, but has an on-play ability. On-play, give your leader or one of your characters 2 rested Dawn cards. So you can play this and then use the 2 that you used to play it in order to put them onto some other character. And I mainly have this to facilitate the Rush Sanji ability. So by turn 2, if you have both of these cards in hand, you can play the Sanji and then play the Brook and then give 2 of the rested Dawn to Sanji to give it Rush. Not only that, but Brook is one of the few cards that has counter plus 2,000, so including it is pretty solid. So yeah, even if we don't want to use Brook as an on-play character, just because 3k power is a little weak, you can use it just for counters and keep them in your hand. And then on to the last 2 cost character, we do have 4 copies of Rush Sanji. So Dawn times 2, this character gains Rush. And Sanji is cool because once again, depending on if you have enough Dawn for this, you can juggle characters and then put Sanji down with the Law ability. And then if you have 2 more active, you can put them under Sanji, and then it'll have Rush. Alright, moving on to the 3 cost characters. I'm going to start off with 4 copies of Killer. So 3 to play, 3k power, but on play, KO up to one of your opponent's rested characters with a cost of 3 or less. So pretty good removal, especially for in the green sort of strategy of removal. But also, trigger, you can play this card. And then with counter potential at plus 1,000, this is overall a very, very good green card to have in this deck. Really fantastic against rush strategies. Next up, do have 3 copies of the promo kit card. And this one's cool because it's 3 to play, 4k power, but Dawn times 2. This character gains double attack, which means that damage this character deals to your opponent's leader becomes 2 instead of 1. For Digimon players, think of this as security attack plus 1, essentially, and then counter plus 1000. But yeah, if you give this thing 2 Dawn, it's able to activate its ability, and then it's a 6k attacker with double attack, which means that your opponent is going to be incentivized to either block it or use a counter, in which they'll have to use one of their either plus 2000 counters or 2 cards from their hand, which is a valuable resource in this game. But yeah, got 3 copies of the promo kit. Next up, do have 3 copies of Zoro. So this is 3 to play, 5k power, but Dawn times 1, this character gains plus 1000 power. So if you were to attack with Zoro and put a Dawn underneath of it, you'll get the plus 1000 from the Dawn and then a plus 1000 from its own ability, making it a 7k attacker. And then on your opponent's turn, because that Dawn is still attached, even though it doesn't gain the Dawn power bonus, it will still have the plus 1000 from its ability, because it doesn't just say for this turn or for the battle. And so that is a 6k Zoro that they have to swing over if they're trying to attack you. And then for the purposes of some abilities, Zoro does count as a super rookie or a supernova, as well as a Straw Hat Crew. So kind of the best of all worlds. Then going into our 4 cost character, do have 4 copies of X Drake. This says Dawn times 1 during your turn. While this character is rested, plus 1000 for all Marines and supernova characters and leaders. Also has counter potential at plus 1000. So yeah, this is cool because it acts as a little bit of a power bonus, a power boost to pretty much all of our main attacking characters. And then also forces our opponent to essentially need to deal with it while it's suspended and vulnerable, which means they might be wasting 1 attack on X Drake as opposed to your life, which, because our leader does start at 4 life as opposed to normal 5, is kind of valuable. And then going into our 5 cost characters, we do have 4 copies of Law. This is from the main set. This is a super rare from the main set. 5 cost to play, 6k power, super rookie / heart pirate. Does have blocker naturally, and then on play, you can return one of your characters to your hand, then play 1 cost 3 or lower character card from your hand. And we'll have to see on the ruling on this, but the way that it's phrased is that you can return the character to your hand, and now it's in your hand. Technically, you could play that same character again. So if for some reason you wanted to do this and you had 7 Dawn available, play an Otama, give something minus 2k power for the turn, play the Law for 5, return the Otama, and then play the Otama for free. And that way you give that other character, or that same character, another 2000, so you just minus 4000 something. Or thinking about just now, if you juggle Nami, right? You play Nami, activate her ability, then you play Law. You return the Nami to your hand, you play the Nami for free. That is, I think by game mechanics, a new Nami, so you can activate her ability again. Now sure, is that a lot of Dawn and a lot of steps to put 2 rested Dawn onto a single character? Perhaps. But like I said, this is only the experimentation phase of the game, but this is something, to maybe look at, to, how can you use Law effectively, what on-play abilities are going to be available in the game, because if anything, combos with green, Law is going to be in play at all times. So yeah, I think that's super cool, and that's why I have 4 copies of it. And then moving on to the last character of the deck, we do have 3 copies of Rush Luffy. So this is from the starter deck, 5 costs to play, 6k power, and then effect has Rush, so it can attack the turn it comes into play. And then Dawn times 2 when attacking. Your opponent can't activate blocker for the battle. Super powerful card, but like I said, I wanted to sort of keep this deck sort of closer to the ground at the 1, 2s, and 3 levels. And so that's why I limited it down to 3 copies of Rush Luffy. Just enough where I can see it when I need to, but not see it too much. That said, Rush Luffy is a very powerful card, and so if you wanted to bump it up to 4, totally could. There's definitely some ratios that could be adjusted here. And then moving on to our event cards, we do have 2 copies of Punk Gibson. So this is a counter event that says your leader or up to one of your characters gains 4000 power for the battle, and then rest one of your opponent's characters that cost 4 or less. Also has a trigger ability that just says rest one of your opponent's characters. So this is pretty solid, and like I said sort of at the beginning, the whole point of the Otama Juggle was to really try and weaken high-powered characters in order for us to be able to swing with our sort of mid-tier attackers. And so Punk Gibson's pretty cool here just because it is a counter. It allows us to survive a battle, but also we can suspend one of our opponent's characters, which means they have one less attacker, and that character is then super vulnerable to a counter attack. That said, 2 to activate is a little steep, especially when, you know, the red strategies really want to utilize as much Dawn as possible on the turn. And so there are at times where leaving 2 Dawn up feels bad. But honestly, Punk Gibson is pretty worth it. Next up, we have 2 copies of Guard Point. This is another counter event that says your leader or one of your characters gains plus 3,000 power for the battle. And then trigger, your leader or one of your characters gains plus 1,000 power during the turn. Pretty simple event card, but 1 to play ain't bad. Honestly, it's a really good just in case of emergency card. Next up, we do have 2 copies of Jet Pistol, so 4 to play. Main ability is KO one of your opponent's characters with a power of 6,000 or less. And like I said, this kind of combos pretty well with Otama, allowing you to essentially KO something with 8,000 power or less. It just costs 5 Dawn total. But it also has a trigger ability that says activate this card's main effect. And then last but not least, we do have 2 copies of Straw Sword. This says this is 2 to play, and then main, rest one of your opponent's characters. And also has a trigger ability that says you can play 1 supernova type character with a cost of 2 or less from your hand. So that would allow you to play our Bartolomeo as well as our Monkey D. Luffy character card. But yeah, that is the red-green Otama Juggle deck profile. Let me know what you thought about it down in the comments below. Like I said, I think this is not the main way you're going to want to build red-green. I think there is definitely a better way, but I will say this is a lot of fun, and the law ability is just super great to play around with. And this only shows a couple of the options that you can target with that ability, but like I said, this doesn't include any of the set 1 Straw Hat cards, and a lot of those cards are pretty good, and they're kind of in that 3 to 2 range of cost. Like one of the cards that immediately comes to mind is the Rushing Zoro, which I believe is 3 costs to play. So you would be able to play that for free and attack. And so yeah, when I build out the sort of more, meta, deck profile for the red-green Monkey D. Luffy, it'll most likely include some copies of that. But if that is something you're looking forward to, be sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell. That way you'll be notified when it comes out. And I also have gameplay of this particular deck profile coming out soon, so be on the lookout for that. But yeah, I think that'll do it for me, so thank you so much for watching, really appreciate it, and captains, remember, build what you like, play what you love, and I'll catch you in the next video. Have a good one.